there was some sort of falling out, and to the point where Atlantic Records was like, we're just gonna let you guys go and do whatever you want to do. We're gonna release you from your
business. I honestly felt lost, I would say. And when it came to the music, I felt that it was over.
What intro members never told you about Kenny Greene? It's a story wrapped in silence. Long before his death, whispers surrounded Greene's declining health, a private battle with HIV that he kept hidden for years. But as his body weakened, so did the walls around his truth.
When I walked out, I felt like I was like in a daze. I was ignorant to the fact of what he dealt with, and I couldn't stomach it.
Was Kenny hiding more than just an illness? Speculation about his sexuality grew louder, even among industry insiders.
When it came to the business, I honestly felt lost, I would say. And when it came to the music, I felt that it was over.
From battling creative tension within the group to the group breaking apart because Greene refused to sell out. Others blame ego, jealousy, and betrayal. Was the music industry too afraid of who Kenny truly was? Let's find out. When the R&B group intro became popular in 1993, things changed very quickly. Their first songs were a big hit, and fans loved their smooth voices and love songs. But with success came pressure, especially from their record label, Atlantic Records. The label wanted more songs that could sell fast and get played on the radio. They pushed the group to make more commercial music, which means music that is catchy, simple, and made mainly to make money. But the group, especially the lead singer Kenny Greene, wanted something different. Kenny loved deeper, soulful music with real feelings and mature stories. He didn't just want to make songs for dancing or radio play. This caused a big problem. Kenny had his own vision of what their music should be, but the label wanted something else. That put the group in a tough spot, and it made things stressful right from the start. Kenny was not only the main singer, but he also wrote most of the songs. He had a very strong idea of how he wanted the group to sound. Because he was in control of most of the music, the other two members, Buddy Wyke and Jeff Sanders, started to feel left out. They didn't feel like they had an equal say in what songs were picked, how they sounded, or even who got credit for writing the music. This started to cause tension within the group. At first, it might have been small things, a disagreement here or there, but over time it became more serious. When people don't feel heard or valued, it can cause anger and sadness, even in close friendships. This creative tension made working together harder, even though they were all talented and wanted the group to succeed.
And I love to play music. Yeah. We didn't know anything about the business of music.
Another issue was the group's public image. Atlantic Records wanted Intro to have a certain look and style. They were expected to be R&B sex symbols, good-looking, smooth-talking, and always appealing to female fans. That kind of image helps sell records, but it doesn't always match who a person really is on the inside. Kenny, in particular, struggled with this. He had personal challenges with his own identity that he wasn't ready to share with the world. Pretending to be something he wasn't added more pressure to his life. It made him feel uncomfortable. And over time, that discomfort began to show. The group didn't talk openly about these things back then, but the distance between them grew. These silent struggles can be just as damaging as loud fights. The group was dealing with fame, pressure from the label, and their own personal issues, all at the same time. And that made it hard for them to stay united.
When it came to the business, I honestly felt lost, I would say. And when it came to the music, I felt that it was over.
As time went on, Kenny's health began to slowly get worse. He was living with HIV, but he didn't tell anyone about it until the year 2001. He kept it a secret for a long time. Even though he continued to write and sing, his body was getting weaker. People around him started to notice that something was wrong. Music executives, especially those working with the group Intro, began to worry. They didn't know exactly what was going on, but they could tell that something wasn't right with Kenny. Because of this, they started to lose faith in the group's future. These worries led the music company to stop putting as much effort into promoting the group. When a label believes a band may not last long, they often pull back on spending money and time on them. This is what happened with Intro. Their second album, New Life, didn't get the same support their first album did.
Come in, I wanna fly.
This made things worse within the group. The other members could feel that they were not getting the help they needed. Some of them didn't even know why the label was pulling away. This led to confusion, frustration, and even mistrust between the group and the people around them. It made their journey much harder. Intro had a very successful first album. While New Life had good music, it didn't get the attention their first one did. After that, things got harder for the group. They wanted to make a third album, but their record label didn't support them. Kenny was left feeling stuck and frustrated. He had so much more music to give, but the doors were closing. Later in life, Kenny started to look very different. People noticed he had lost a lot of weight. His appearance changed so much that fans began to worry. Many guessed something was wrong with his health, but Kenny kept saying he was fine. He denied being sick, even when the signs were clear. Maybe he was scared or ashamed. Maybe he didn't want people to treat him differently. But by hiding his illness, he waited too long to get the help he needed. This choice left him even more isolated. It's hard to fight a sickness alone, especially when you feel like you can't talk to anyone about it. The New Life album came out in 1995.
Come in, I wanna fly.
It had some success, but not as much as the group hoped for. One of the problems was that there were many disagreements behind the scenes. Kenny wanted the music to sound more grown-up and meaningful. He had gone through a lot in life and wanted their songs to reflect deeper emotions. Some people say even other group members agreed with the label and didn't fully support Kenny's new direction.
This time, then there was something like a falling out between our manager and somebody at the label, or between Kenny and somebody at the label. We never got the story of what happened.
This caused tension in the group. It's hard to move forward when the people in the same team want different things. The arguments during the album's creation made the process stressful and tiring. Instead of being excited about their second album, the group was divided, and that energy showed in the final results. The album did okay, but it didn't take them to the next level the way they had hoped.
But there was some sort of falling out, and to the point where Atlantic Records was like, we're just gonna let you guys go and do whatever you want to do. We're gonna release you from your contract.
During this time, there were also rumors going around that Kenny was planning to leave Intro and go solo. People whispered that he wanted to make his own music and tell his personal story in his own way. While Kenny never said this out loud, some close to the group believed it might be true. Since he was already the main songwriter and lead voice of the group, the idea of him leaving made the others nervous. If he left, Intro might not survive. These rumors added even more stress and made the group feel shaky and unsure of their future. All these issues, Kenny's secret illness, the record label pulling back, the disagreements about music, and the solo rumors, created a hard time for the group. They were a talented team, but so much was going on behind the scenes that the outside world didn't see. It's a sad story of how talent and dreams can be affected by health problems, misunderstandings, and pressure from the music business. After Kenny Greene died, the music world did not say much about him. There were no big tributes or awards. Many artists who worked with him stayed quiet. This silence was painful, especially because Kenny had given so much to music.
When it came to the business, I honestly felt lost, I would say. And when it came to the music, I felt that it was over.
He wrote songs not only for Intro, but for other big names, too. It seemed like people didn't want to talk about his death because of how he died and who he was. Kenny had HIV, and at that time, there was a lot of fear and shame around the illness, especially in the Black community.
I almost felt like I needed therapy, to be honest. I only visited Kenny twice.
And because he was gay, some people didn't want to celebrate him or speak out. The industry's silence showed how uncomfortable it still was to talk about things like sexuality and health. Kenny deserved better. He deserved to be remembered and honored.
And when I walked out, I felt like I was like in a daze. I was ignorant to the fact of what he dealt with. And I couldn't stomach it.
Greene gave so much to R&B music. His voice was strong, full of feeling, and he helped shape the sound of his time. But even though he worked hard and made great music, many people don't know his name today. He didn't get the same respect as others who came after him. Some people think it's because he had personal problems, and the music industry didn't support him enough. Others believe the industry doesn't always give credit to people who are different or who go through hard times. This is sad because Greene's music touched many lives. He helped open doors for others, but when it came time to honor him, not much was done. There were only a few small efforts to remember him. His story shows how the music world sometimes forgets the people who helped build it. He deserved more love and respect. Greene was also one of the few artists who talked openly about his sexuality and health during a time when most people stayed quiet. This was a very brave thing to do. He didn't hide who he was, even though it made some people uncomfortable. When Greene spoke about being gay and dealing with health issues, he started real conversations. He made people think about how hard it is to be honest in the music business, especially if you don't fit in. His courage helped others who felt alone. Today, groups like the NBJC Ubuntu continue to talk about these important issues, using stories like Greene's to push for change. His life still matters. His truth gave others strength. Even though he's gone, Greene's voice is still helping people speak up and be proud of who they are. Kenny Greene grew up in Detroit with music practically stitched into his DNA. Way before anybody had a clue who he was, he was already hooked on singing and messing around on the piano, setting the stage for what would become a low-key shakeup in R&B. But his path to getting noticed wasn't exactly smooth. Instead of jumping straight into the music scene, Kenny surprised everyone by signing up for the Army.
How I met Kenny Greene from Intro. I met Kenny Greene from Intro when I was a paratrooper down in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the 82nd Airborne Division.
It sounded random, but the structure actually gave him the discipline and the built-in audience he needed to sharpen his craft. He started performing at talent shows on base, where people were already picking up on how good he was. Somewhere between drills and military routines, he met Clinton Wyke. Clinton was just as obsessed with music, so the two of them spent their free time at a little club off base in South Carolina, trading ideas and dreaming up something way bigger than they could pull off solo.
Dude, Ken Thomas, told me that he knew a guy named Kenny who could sing real good. He said, and I told Kenny that you know how to play the piano. I want you guys to meet and see what you could come up with. So
they eventually decided to start a group and convinced another guy from the service named Nelson to join. They picked a name that basically announced to the world that they were fresh talent ready to make a splash: Intro. Even though they were fired up creatively, Army life kept getting in the way. Between the strict schedules and constant obligations, recording an album felt impossible.
Intro, I'm proud to be one of the members. Sometimes I listen to the music and I kind of take myself out of it and I become a fan of it.
After tracking some early songs, Kenny and Clinton finally decided to walk away from the military to go all in on music. Nelson chose to stick with his Army career, so Clinton called up his old friend Jeff Sanders to fill out the group. And just like that, Intro was ready to take on the world. Not long after Intro locked in their lineup, fate basically dropped DJ Eddie F. from Heavy D and the Boys right in their path. Eddie caught one of their shows and immediately knew they had something way fresher than the usual R&B acts popping up. He and Heavy D took the crew under their wing, guiding them out of Army life and into the non-stop chaos of New York studios. From the jump, Kenny was on a different level. He wasn't only the lead voice, he was arranging songs, writing lyrics, and tweaking beats until they sounded exactly right. His taste was ahead of the curve, and people around the industry were clocking it. You could tell he soaked up old-school soul and jazz, plus the bounce of New Jack Swing, but he flipped it into something smooth without feeling stuck in the past. When Intro dropped their first album, it hit home with everyone tired of copy-paste love songs clogging the airwaves. Tracks like Let Me Be the One and Why Don't You Love Me took off, letting Kenny's silky tone shine. But it was Come Inside that turned into the ultimate late-night anthem. Somehow, classy and heated all at once. What really set them apart was Kenny's way of stacking harmonies. He could build vocal layers so rich they stood shoulder to shoulder with Boyz II Men, yet still had their own laid-back feel. Where other groups were chasing the catchiest hooks, Kenny was all about the little details. The way background vocals wrapped around the lead, or exactly when a chord switch would make a lyric hit harder. Even while Intro was blowing up, Kenny was grinding behind the scenes on songs that would end up shaping 90s R&B. Before Mary J. Blige turned into the Queen, everybody knows, she was just starting out and needed songs that sounded like her. Kenny came through and wrote Reminisce and Love No Limit, giving her the kind of signature records that put her on the map and changed the whole landscape. He kept adding to his credits, working with Tevin Campbell, Will Smith, Cameron, 98 Degrees, Jason Weaver. The list just kept growing. Whether he was putting together a smooth slow jam or something upbeat, Kenny always seemed to know exactly where R&B was headed next. That instinct and constant work earned him real respect behind the curtain. He even landed the same Songwriter of the Year honors as huge names like Dave Jam Hall and the duo Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. A crazy flex for someone most casual fans had never even heard of. While everybody was busy blasting Intro's hits, Kenny Greene was quietly mixing New Jack Swing with something smoother and more grown-up, basically laying the groundwork for what later turned into neo-soul. His songs had that warm, old-school soul feel, but were fresh enough to hook the hip-hop crowd, too. When their second album, New Life, dropped, Kenny doubled down on that blend. Tracks like Funny How Time Flies and their cover of Stevie Wonder's Ribbon in the Sky showed just how much he'd leveled up as a songwriter. That cover especially blew up. It was one of those rare moments when redoing a classic actually worked.
Ribbon in the sky for our love.
But even with all that love, Kenny was dealing with serious pressure behind the scenes. Being a black R&B guy singing about romance in the early 90s was already tough, but it got even harder when people started whispering about his personal life. Back then, just the idea that someone might be gay could wreck everything. Labels wanted him to look like the ultimate heartthrob for women, so every promo shot and music video was staged to keep that fantasy alive. There wasn't space for any honesty about who he really was. Still, he never stopped making music. Beyond the Intro albums, he kept popping up on other projects. He even added background vocals to Will Smith's Chasing Forever, which sampled Ribbon in the Sky, tying his own work back together in this cool, full-circle moment. When Intro took a break later on, the music world was switching gears. Hip-hop was taking over, and big solo stars were replacing groups like theirs. But Kenny didn't slow down. He stayed in New York studios, writing and recording for all kinds of artists. A lot of the songs he touched flew under the radar unless you actually sat down with the liner notes. Even when the group's buzz faded, their songs stuck around. Come Inside kept spinning on late-night radio, getting picked up by new fans who couldn't believe people used to make tracks that smooth. Kenny's fingerprints were all over it. Proof he knew exactly how to turn personal stories into songs that felt universal. While Kenny was busy rewriting the playbook for R&B, he was also carrying the weight of staying silent about who he really was. Back then, the Black community had this complicated mix of deep faith and old-school ideas about what masculinity was supposed to look like, and it left almost no room for anybody who didn't fit neatly into the script. That pressure followed Kenny everywhere, even as he kept stacking hits and earning respect in studios. Outside his world, change moved at a crawl. You could barely find any Black gay or bi men represented in music or movies without it turning into a scandal. Most people had to pretend or dodge questions if they wanted any shot at keeping their careers alive. But if you listened close to Intro's records, you could hear Kenny's confidence cut through all that noise. His songs were layered and rich, the kind of music that came from someone who knew exactly what he wanted to create. He wasn't just showing up to sing, he was shaping every note and every harmony until it felt right. Intro eventually came back together after a long break. Years later, they started doing shows again, tapping into all the nostalgia for a time when R&B felt more personal and less like it was built for playlists. Jeff Sanders and Clinton Wyke kept the group moving forward, and they even brought in Tao Soprano from Drew Hill to step up as the new lead singer. It was a pretty fitting next chapter for a band that always promised something fresh and real. Looking back on everything Kenny put out, it was clear he did way more than just sing a few love songs. He had this vision for what R&B could be and the talent to pull it off. Even as the industry kept chasing new trends, his influence stuck around. You can still hear it in the way today's artists mix retro melodies with modern beats, and in the respect everyone has for the work he left behind. His songs were proof that music could feel honest and alive, and that he was willing to put his whole heart into every line so people could actually feel something real.